my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel. And today is week 2 of the Charlie and Charlie Christmas Cracker. Say hi, Charlie.
Hello, Charlie. How are you doing?
What do people have to expect from this week's video, Charlie?
Well, this week, I believe we have some more of the same as last week, our regular slots of Christmas cracker jokes. We're going to be playing the game of 2 likes, 1 dislike again. And I believe that we have something of a take on a festive tag that BookTube might have previously seen. And
also finally finishing up with the books that we picked for each other last week, what we thought of them, and then doing the same, picking another book for the other person for this week. And then just finishing on like our little festive recommendations. So Charlie, do you want to do the first Christmas joke?
I'll try. I've already told Charlie I struggle to get through this joke without laughing because it is a very terrible joke. But there's just something about it that makes me laugh. I'm already starting, I can feel it. What did the snowman say to the aggressive carrot?
What did the snowman say to the aggressive carrot? I've not heard of this one.
Get out of my face.
Get out of my face.
Bad joke, but I find it hilarious.
It's really bad. It's not really, no, it's still good though. It's a good bad joke.
I specifically went for a Christmas cracker joke there, and
I like it, and I specifically like the delivery.
Thank you, because I was struggling not to laugh with that one.
Right. I don't think mine's much better though. I'm gonna say.
Let's hear it now.
Right. Why was Santa so upset when he got a sweater for Christmas?
Oh, I don't know.
Because he was hoping for a screamer or a moaner. Is that really bad? Can I include that? I don't know if I can include that or not. It's a little bit worse than last week.
Wow. Why is it 2 weeks in a row now? I've been over with the nice family friendly Christmas cracker jokes, and you've just I can't even say what I was going to say. You just find these. Oh my goodness! Let us know what your favorite joke was in the comments, because
I like your one with the carrot and the aggressive carrot. Was it aggressive?
My goodness, it is an aggressive carrot, yeah, but I am starting the day with a shock today. My goodness.
I like the dirty jokes. I told you that.
Yeah, I know you told me that. I just never envisaged that. Wow.
It's a bit like, I feel like it makes Santa look a bit filthy, really, but
I mean, Santa's definitely filthy. Yeah. Right.
So the next bit is that the 2 likes, 1 dislike. So yeah. Charlie, you go first. We'll say the names of the books. I feel like with classics, most of us will know the premises. I'm hoping I'll know the premise of whatever ones you've got, so we don't need to explain.
Okay, so I went with a broad.
I feel like this is going to be a hard one.
Meaning for what classics meant.
Okay.
And I've gone for some books. Well, all of these books, I believe, came out in the 20th century.
Okay.
But I think of them all as classics. So we have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie.
This is going to be
To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
Okay.
And The Outsider by Albert Camus.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And that's all I'm going to say about those.
My 3 are Villette, The Great Gatsby, and 1984.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to be hard. I feel like this is the hardest week.
I deliberately chose books that I thought you wouldn't have heard me talk about.
I don't think I have to.
But I can't say as I've heard you talk about.
I have never heard you talk about The Outsider. You possibly may have mentioned To Kill a Mockingbird a long time ago, many years ago, because
I feel like
on 2018 when I was first on BookTube, everyone was talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. I remember that.
I feel like we've had a conversation about it, but I don't know whether we necessarily talked about it
in detail. And my three are, the reason I picked my three are, I feel like they're quite Marmite books. The three of them are, well, I don't know, are they? But definitely two of them I think are quite Marmite anyway.
I've only read one of them.
You've yours. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read any of them, yours. So that's another, and that makes it harder because I think when we sort of like.
Yeah. So do you want to guess mine and then I'll guess yours? Okay.
Right, I'm going to go through my thinking process. I feel like the first one is either, so this is the one I'm like, the first one I'm kind of thinking that you put it in there to sort of like unsettle me because it's an author I know you've read. So, and then also I know you love Agatha Christie, but because last week you put an author that you loved, but that's sort of like, but then it was one of their books that you didn't like. So I feel like that is like a double bluffy one. I'm not going to look at your face because I just know everything. Anyway, so anyway, so I feel like that's like a red herring. I feel like the first one is like almost like a red herring. So I'm going to push that one aside for now. Then the second one, To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't think there's that many people that dislike this book. So I'm going to kind of like, I'm going to say this is one that you do like. I feel like The Outsider. Like, it's just even like there's a French name. Oh, I'm talking myself into thinking it's the first one now. Oh no. No, I do think you like Roger Ackroyd. Do you? Have I heard you saying you don't like Roger Ackroyd? I feel like you might have said that you don't like Roger. No, surely not. I feel like you mess with my mind with these ones. You really mess with my mind. I'm going to go for Roger Ackroyd.
Correct.
I feel like I have heard you say you don't like that because I had, but I don't know. Yeah.
You have heard me say that. So I haven't talked about The Outsider or To Kill a Mockingbird. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd I have talked about previously on BookTube about how I dislike it, but I can't reveal why due to having to spoil it to do so. But now, whenever we get a copy of that book at work or the DVD comes into my shop, somebody has to bring it to me and mock me with it because I vehemently despise that piece of work by Christie. In fact, it's so bad that I nearly didn't read any more Poirot after reading that one. To Kill a Mockingbird, I had to read for GCSE year, and we did talk about because I got told we were reading it at the end of year 10, so I read it during the summer between year 10 and year 11. We didn't read it when I was in year 11 until then in the first few weeks. Then we got to the October half term and got told we were going to be reading it when we came back, so be prepared. So I read it again. I read it during the class, and I read it again over Christmas, and I read it about a grand total of 4 to 5 times in that 1 year alone. So I've said that it's one book that, as much as I liked it then, there is no way I could go back to it yet because I just spent too much time with it. And The Outsider by Albert Camus is one that I read in my first or second year of university, and it's a very slim volume about a man who just is exceptionally honest, and it seems that his honesty is what ultimately leads to his downfall. And it is just an incredible book, and I somewhat empathized with the protagonist. So I've always held that one to great esteem. And that is one of the books that started my grand adoration for French authors.
I'm glad that I'm correct. Yay!
But I really don't think that I'm going to get yours right.
There's so much pressure, especially because like I said, because we're such good friends. But I feel like even if you get this wrong, it doesn't mean anything. It's fine.
If I get it wrong, it just clearly shows that
Emily got it wrong, like I said.
Less attention to you. You don't want to tell me what Emily guessed beforehand, do you?
No. So it's Villette, The Great Gatsby, and the 1984.
Maybe it's a sign from the universe with the one that I keep forgetting, but you did show 1984 last week.
Oh, did I?
You did. But I don't know whether
I
you
took
work
that.
like I don't know whether you work like me, because when I dislike a book, I immediately get rid of it. So
I forgot that I showed that last week.
if you were like me and you don't keep the books that you dislike, then it wouldn't be here. But I'm just going to say Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I can't think. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Oh my god, Charlie, you got it right.
Really?
The friendship is strong. We're fine. Why was your thinking about Villette then? Why did you decide Villette? Tell me.
Well, like I say, you showed 1984 last week.
Which I forgot.
Yeah, which you've seemingly forgotten. And I don't know, it just... Isn't Villette something like Charlotte Bronte's Marmite novel?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether we've had a conversation about which classics we've disliked before. I don't think we have, but
I have mentioned it on my channel before when that was many years ago. Like this, we're talking when was like 2018. So when was that?
Okay.
In 1984, I do really like. This is like one of my husband's favorite books, and I do really like it. It's not like one of my favorite classics, being honest, but I know, like I said, lots of people either like it or dislike it. I guess that's the same with his work, isn't it? Yeah, with George Orwell. No, yeah, Animal Farm actually was another one. But I like Animal Farm more actually. But I feel like 1984 is quite divisive because there is a section in it. There's like a section. So there's a book in the book. You know, there's like have you heard about it? Yeah, there's like a manuscript. That bit I didn't really like a bit, but overall I feel like it's such a clever book, and it's another one like George Orwell writes books that kind of obviously was ahead of his time, and it's a really good book. I do enjoy it, and so obviously that's why I've got it on my shelves. Apart from the fact that Richard loves it, but it's one I like, and it's a strong one. The Great Gatsby I loved, and so many people hate this book because it obviously there's a privileged white man and things like that. But I just really loved the book, and I watched the film straight after. And also, for some reason, you know, Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I read the two of the books back to back. So I think it was one holiday or one near the end of the year or some other time. I read The Great Gatsby and Breakfast at Tiffany's, and they work so well together. If you ever get the opportunity to read them near each other, because they're both quite short books, because the theme of it is very similar. Anyway. And then Villette, I was so excited to read because I think I read Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre was my first Charlotte Bronte, which probably was a mistake, obviously. I think only because of, if you start with the best one, arguably, everything else is going to be a bit flat. So I remember trying to read Villette. I had it on my shelves for years and years. And I've got videos where I like put it on different TBRs back in my early booktube days. And I kept on trying to pick it up and read it, and I never engaged with it. And then I thought me and Emily did a buddy read of it. And I can't believe she got it wrong, because we did a buddy read of it, and I just did not like it. It's I feel like I just didn't engage with it at all, because it's set in France. Lucy Snow is obviously goes to France, and it becomes a governess, Lucy Snow.
Oh.
Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. So. And it's like one of the ones, like I unhauled it straight away because I was just like, oh. And I was disappointed because I really wanted to love it. And anyway.
You might be disappointed, but I'm glad that we both knew each other well enough to get this right. What we got in store next week for our likes and dislikes?
It is the modern one, like recent reads, isn't it?
Recent reads, there we go.
Recent reads, but from the last 5 years.
Okay.
So, on to the next section. The next portion of this is the tag section. So and this is we've got this tag from, it's called the Christmas Movie Book Tag, and it was originally created by Eva and Words of Clover. She created the tag, and we have we have replicated it with our own Charlie editions. You can explain.
We have changed it somewhat. We've done some tinkering. When Charlie first sent me the questions for this tag, there is a film on here that neither of us can abide and didn't know until Charlie had sent it to me. And then there were some films that we felt needed including that hadn't been included. So this is a tag that is inspired by Aoife's original video, and we are grateful to have discovered it. But we have done a fair bit of tinkering and maybe changed some of the prompts to suit our
But we
needs.
still appreciate the original nonetheless, and we'll put that in the description.
Exactly. The first film on our list is Alf. And this is the one that saw us tinkering with everything because whilst a lot of people enjoy this film, I despise it.
I don't like it.
So happens that Charlie doesn't like it either. Therefore, we changed to Alf, a book that everyone else loves that you dislike. And for this, I chose Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Good one.
Probably the third video, I don't believe it's there now, ever recorded for my channel was a rant review of this book because everyone and their cat had been talking about how fantastic Ready Player One was. And so I purchased it and I read it, and I have never been more annoyed with a book. I do not understand the hype behind this book. To me, it's just tons of 80s references thrust into a tome without any real, like reason for them being there other than to provide some sort of fan service with this mythologizing of a young woman and this story that is just taken straight out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and unfortunately went on twice as long and was not as good. And I just will forever hold this in my heart as a book that I remember despising, whilst everybody else went on and on about how fantastic it was.
Did you watch the movie even?
I have no intention of watching the movie. I have no intention of entering into any sort of... I threw this book. I threw this on the floor. The first line of that video back in the day was, "Booktube, you lied to me." And I do not intend on going anywhere near that piece of media ever again. Goodbye to the shit show. I'm sticking to dinner, ladies.
I liked the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I actually really liked the movie. I think it must have been one we bought to watch because you have to either you hire it or you buy it. I can't remember which anyway. I enjoyed it, and it's probably one I would actually rewatch probably, even though I haven't. But I tried to read the book and it was just awful. The book is not I just didn't like the writing style, and because I enjoyed the movie so much, I was because sometimes you can still watch it. Like I know you like lots of people, most bookish people like to read the book and then watch the movie. But you can do it the other way around and still enjoy it if you like them enough, and if it's a faithful enough adaptation. Normally, I feel like like there are ones that I've done it the reverse way around and still enjoyed it. Anyway,
I was going to say there's a book that I have later on in this list where I did exactly the same thing with that.
Yeah,
but I'll mention that when we get there.
Yeah, and but yeah, so no, it just didn't. I don't like his writing at all, and I was so disappointed because I loved the movie so much. I'd really enjoyed the movie so much, and so I literally, I just couldn't believe that. The writing was just awful. So I did not enjoy it. The movie felt Spielberg. I think it's obviously directed by Spielberg, isn't it? So I think it is. So it felt Spielbergy. I'm sure it is directed. When I first thought of this question, the first one when I first had a book that everyone else loves that you didn't like, the first immediate answer that comes into my head is obviously Sorrow and Bliss. But we've talked about that quite a lot. We won't talk about it again.
I didn't like that one from my memory, Charlie. Like as soon as you said that, it was like I've just sudden.
I saw it on your face. I wasn't going to talk about that one because we have talked about it quite a lot, but that is one me and Charlie both again universally, as for this prompt, we universally dislike this book. So my answer, I've got two other ones I was contemplating. I'm just going to be salty and ruin the whole of the internet. Everyone's going to hate me now. I've got no one is talking about this, but again, some people did like it.
Well, no, that's what this tag's about. That's what this question is.
Okay. But my actual answer.
Yeah.
I feel like most people liked and I disliked. I'm talking the passion, like what you disliked. Ready Player One, Final Girls by Royally Doris. I hated that book. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. Like I don't think I've actually despised a book that I finished as much.
So why did you finish it?
I don't know. Obviously, the plot must have been moving.
Okay, well, I suppose I haven't read this one, but I have
Like,
heard it's to be a very fantasy thriller, isn't it?
I didn't think any of the choices that the characters made were realistic. There's a point where they go walking through the park, like in New York. It's either in New York or a park. There's a park that the girls go in, and they go walking through this park late at night, and I'm just like, and obviously women are allowed to do exactly what they want to do. We've all got free choice, free will. But given the trauma that they'd been through, I was like, I could not see that the decision they took that like to go through this park. I was like, why did they do that? That is not realistic. Like some of the things, the choices that they made, and like as like throughout the book, I was just like, this is just like I know I can suspend my belief, and maybe it's because like with thrillers, there's like I feel like it's like you have a specific taste of what you want to. It's quite specific, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but you still need it to be believable.
And I didn't like it. I just thought it was
Because,
awful. I just thought the characters were very unrealistic. I just didn't like
what
it.
you're saying
And the plot
reminds me so much of when I reached a certain point in the Harry Hole series by Joe Nesbo, and suddenly the climaxes of every book became more outlandish, like him escaping from medieval torture devices, or there's one scene in particular where he's left hanging from a what do you call them? It's like a ski lift type thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And like none of this is realistic. Everything that he's gone through now, all the torture and trauma, he would be dead by now, especially how many books it's been happening in. And so yeah, even with a thriller, you have an invisible mug. Even with a you have to have some sort of believability there. You can have outlandish and outrageous things happening because that's the nature of the game, but they still have to be grounded in reality somewhat. And I do feel like maybe I was gonna say I do feel like with maybe what you're saying, the author was going for that sense with the reader, and this is from somebody who hasn't read it, of like when in a horror movie the protagonist will hear something in the basement and you're like, you know there's going to be a villain down there. You would leave the house, you would get into your car and you would drive away. You'd be like, no, bye, forget about this. But for the film's purposes, the protagonist goes down into the cellar, the basement, and has some sort of awful encounter. And yeah,
I just didn't like his writing style. And loads of people love Riley Sager, but I just didn't. And it's put me off. So I don't. Yeah, I'm not really a big thriller reader anyway, obviously. But there are books, thrillers that I've read and I have loved. But this one, I was just like, oh no, eye roll, oh eye roll. It was like so terrible, and I was just like, and if I like the writing style enough in a book, the disbelief thing, I can suspend my disbelief to the cows come home. In fact, so to the point of like ridiculousness, I can literally be so immersed in it. But if the writing style doesn't grab you for whatever reason, then that's it. Nah. The next question number 2, is a film that both me and Charlie adore. It is Arthur Christmas. We both love this movie, don't we?
we do. I told you about this when I first saw the trailer. It was about June of the year it was going to come out, and I told my family that we would have to go and see this film. And it's the last film that we did all see together as a family because I grew up. But yeah, we all went. We all left the cinema just absolutely joyous and thrilled with this one, and it's still one where we quote it to this day. Especially
heartwarming, and it's got, again, it hits all the notes. She's got funny. It's just, it hits all the festive notes like we were saying about last week, and it's just really wonderful. And it's one of my favorites. Is a middle grade / YA book you think adults would love / learn from / learn from. My answer for this it is Show Us Who You Are by Elle McNicoll. And I love this book so much. It's just like such a gorgeous middle grade. It's the 2 main protagonists. There's an autistic main protagonist and a main protagonist that has ADHD. So it's Cora. Cora is autistic, and Adrian has ADHD. And they're just like the most loveliest little characters, and it's set sort of like, it sort of goes into like a little bit like sci-fi-y, and it's sort of I don't know, do you know the premise of this?
I haven't heard of this one before.
Okay.
You've mentioned.
Yeah, so we follow Cora and Adrian. There's an institution that Adrian's dad works for that's called the Pomegranate Institute. I'm sure it's the dad. Anyway. Yeah, these polygons are created, and so something happens within this book. Like there's a famous chapter in this book that turns everyone like comments on if you follow Elle McNicoll, and everyone talks about this chapter, but everyone's like, what did you do to the character? Anyway, so something happens to one of the characters. Yeah, it's just obviously it shows you that if you try and change things about people and remove what you think is imperfections, what actually you're removing the core thing of who they are. Do you know what I mean? Without saying too much. And it's just so brilliant. I just love the representation in these pages. Like Elle McNicoll writes amazing representation. Like when I read another book by her this year that I can't remember, it's I'll put it on screen, and I gave that 5 stars, her most recent one, and that was with a dyspraxic main protagonist, and she just it's so much heart. So the pacing of it's brilliant, and I think that if you want to learn a bit more about I guess autistic, obviously everyone is no one is a monolith, but I feel like this does it so well. So yeah, if you want to find out a bit more about like neurodivergent representation, etc., it's brilliant. That's my answer.
For this prompt, I went with The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know how many L's he has in his name. I'll admit, with this one, I struggled to think of a middle grade, despite the fact that I read loads of it. But The Hobbit is one that I read when I was an adult. The internet tells me it's considered a children's book. And it's perhaps one that I didn't like. I didn't like it wholeheartedly when I first read it. But over time, and as I've got older and appreciated a slower paced narrative or appreciated a certain style of storytelling more than I used to, it's really reached this point where it just sits well with me as this one of those books that I can return to, and I wouldn't call it a comfort read, but I'd call it a comfortable read. You know, one
faithful one that you know when you're in good hands.
You know where you're going with it. You get in the adventure. You don't really have to think too much about it because I know the story already.
Yeah.
But I think that it has this nostalgic quality that will appeal to an older reader, and whilst it still has the adventurous narrative that younger readers enjoy. And I also know quite a few people, not just through BookTube, but there's an artist friend of mine who a lot of his work is inspired by Tolkien, and he still adores Tolkien to this day and from childhood. And still, like, he's one of those where it can be, he knows everything inside and out about the Tolkien universe.
I love that.
For children, it's maybe you can just read it as an adventure story, but then when you're older, there's this whole mythos surrounding not just the books, but the writing of the books and everything that went into them, that I think that a lot of adults get swept up in. So
I haven't read this one. I think I've got it upstairs on my shelves, and it is one I do want to get to. So maybe I should put it in next week's pick. We'll see.
Oh,
we'll see.
That's an idea. For our third prompt, we have Love Actually, a book with a huge cast of characters. So for this one, I went with the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois.
Oh, I did nearly go. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book that Charlie's going to talk to you about was also on my list of possibilities for this. But we read this book together earlier this year, and it's a huge, vast family saga that originally I didn't feel like I was enjoying this book. I felt like it did dither about here and there, and that there was maybe a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily necessary for
Yeah.
the book. But I went back and, I read the author's interviews, and as soon as I got some context about what the author was trying to do, this book stuck with me. But I think that the author within this book has managed to capture the cyclical nature of sometimes stories happening within families, and a parent being unable to stop the child from repeating their mistakes and having to let their child go through their own life and make those mistakes. And you also got this epic picture of where a family comes from historically, but also how their family history might have caused people to behave in certain ways. And yeah, I do. It's such a interwoven familial.
The ending is really powerful. Don't you think the ending of that is such a powerful book? I love the ending, how she did that. And this is a debut. We're talking about a debut, and considering what she's like 100%, anything she writes, I'm literally there. Like, I feel like with a slightly shorter book, I think she could.
Well, she says that that's what she plans in future.
Yeah. Because her writing is just gorgeous. The actual writing, I really love the writing. It didn't always work 100%, like you said, throughout the whole narrative, but I think, like you said, when you at a distance, it's just it's a brilliant work of fiction. I think it's brilliant.
Oh well, all I was just going to say when you said that it's a favourite ours, yes, it is a favourite.
So my answer for this is, again, like Charlie, I could have picked 1,000 books, but my answer is The Eighth Life by Nino Harashvili. That's how you say it, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is broken up into 8 stories. It's like 8 little like books within the book, and it's a multi-generational family tale, and it's sort of surrounding like the mythology of this like hot chocolate recipe, isn't it?
It is. You get there's this whole thing, isn't there, that whoever imbibes the hot chocolate ends up cursed in some sort
like
of
this
way.
And it's just, I love this so much. This is like an amazing, like, I love this book. This is like, it's one of my favorite books. I feel like it's one of my favorite books of all time, and I've only read it once. I want to read it again. It's nearly 1,000 pages, and I read it within a week. I think 10 days. I literally gulped this book down. I couldn't put it down. And even though there's content warnings within this, so beware, everybody.
Oh, for everything.
For everything. And it's actually, I read one of the scenes in it was so disturbing. It was probably one of the, I think I messaged Charlie when I was reading it, and we didn't buddy read this, but I did read it, and then I talked to you.
Yeah, it's look, I can't even think what moment you're talking about currently, because there's
to do with Kitty, I think.
Yeah, okay, so Kitty, yeah, because there were so many moments in this disturbing, and the thing is, as a reader, I felt I could see the worst case scenario of everything, and I didn't expect the author to go there, but every time she did, and every time she made sure that it wasn't gratuitous.
No, I don't think that. Yeah,
it really did emphasize the brutality of the times that these characters were going through.
And because it's set in an area, it's like Georgia, isn't it? Is it set predominantly in Georgia? And it's just so visceral. Yeah, I feel like, again, it's very, again, cinematic. I feel like it's quite cinematic, and I just felt so immersed in it, and to the point, like I said, where sometimes I was very disturbed. But yeah, this has got some of my favorite. Kitty is one of my, I always say this, Kitty is one of my favorite bookish characters. I've got a huge crush on her. She's just so amazing. She's just like one of the best characters, isn't she, in fiction? She's just so, I feel like she's just got so many layers to her personality and like how she is. But anyway,
I agree wholeheartedly with your estimations about Kitty.
Costas.
That's the brother.
Yeah,
that's Kitty's brother. Because I was going to mention how it's such a well-drawn relationship between brother and sister, who end up having somewhat opposing values and opinions, but there is still there's still this fraternal
he's brilliant though. He's absolutely brilliant.
Still this like relationship between them that is very true to how sibling relationships are. And despite their values, he's still trying to protect her as much as he can. And it's fantastic. It's
phenomenal. It's one of the best. Again, it's another one of those huge chunky books that's just but every single page I think counts. That's another reason.
I mean, I still think that the final part should have perhaps been published separately. Maybe. Because I feel like the final part works more like a counterpoint to the rest of the book.
Oh, because it's sort of like almost stuck on at the end.
Yeah. And it changes the tone.
Yeah. Oh.
And I still feel like I would have liked that final book, that final part to have been released as a longer sequel. This is one as well where the author famously wrote so much more, and the book is still as long as it is.
Yeah, but
it's
the translators of this as well. It required 2 translators, and those Charlotte Collins, I think, is one of them.
It's Ruth somebody, isn't it?
Ruth, is it? I'm sure. Yeah, is it Charlotte Collins and Ruth? Yeah, Charlotte Collins and Ruth Martin. Well remembered. Both of us remembered quite well. So they did a brilliant job of it, and you can't I couldn't tell the difference between one translator to the next, which I couldn't. So.
No,
seamless.
It's like I say, it's just brilliant. But this is also one of the ones where you and I both recognise that we like a
multi-generational family tale, which is why those 2 books sing to both of our tastes. So this is a movie that me and Charlie again put in here ourselves, because I watched it for the first time last Friday. And I've never watched this before. Have you watched this, Charlie? I think I must ask you, and you didn't say, so I don't know if you have.
So any big action film we've watched due to my father.
Yeah.
So yes, we have seen Die Hard. We have seen Die Hard many times.
Do you believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie? This is a question for...
I don't know.
People have strong opinions about this.
People have strong opinions about it, but then, there is many a Christmas special of Midsummer Murders that the only reason it's seen as a Christmas special is because of the time in which it is set. Therefore, if you're going off thinking of Christmas in the same way, and
I guess that's the same specials.
It would have to be a Christmas film then, due to the fact
and also Doctor Who Christmas specials are, they're still a Christmas special, aren't they? So yeah.
So there you go. Charlie and Charlie surmised it is indeed a Christmas film.
I wasn't so sure, but you convinced me it is now. Richard is convinced it is, and there's loads of other people I was speaking to online. Like some of my friends, 2 of them, Alison Giant Bookshelf, her husband is 100%. It's his favourite Christmas movie. Alice will say in the comments below if you're watching. And then my other friend Kelly, her husband, literally, and also my husband. So yeah, I'll say, and I love this movie actually. I really enjoyed it, Charlie. I watched it and I loved it.
There we go. See, so what's the problem?
I liked it.
What you would like that one?
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. Die Hard, a genre blending novel. Cemetry
Boys. Oh, I didn't think of this one. Why?
The reason I say this is a genre blending novel because it's got magical realism. One of the main characters is in fact a ghost, and it's also kind of a love story. So, but it's very adventurous. It's like an adventure thing that happens in it as well. There's like a mystery element to it. So it mixes. It mixes lots of different genres, and so yeah, I love this book so much. And again, it's got a lot of mixture. The reason is because the plot is very pacey. the characterization in this book is just so amazing. It tackles a lot of really hard-hitting themes without being like, you know, like it doesn't make like things that happen to these characters, because it's very diverse, a very diverse book. Then there are the characters, there are trans characters in it. There's so and there's a discussion in here that I read about pronouns with one of the lead characters and his mum, and it was just that conversation about the pronouns conversation. It made me cry when I read it. At the time when I read it, actually, everything in my family was quite surrounding this topic was quite what was going on, and so it just really hit hard. So yeah, I just think it's just gorgeous. Aside from all those things, the actual it's just a brilliant book. The writing's gorgeous. It's just lovely, lovely, lovely. 5-star read. Yeah.
But I will have to get to this one. I keep meaning to. I keep adding
so cool.
And just not getting to it, and I should do, because it's an incredibly.
I think you would like it, actually.
I know. I was looking back over videos, and I ordered this book in the hopes that it would arrive prior to Halloween on the year that I bought it, but due to delays and how long it took, it didn't actually arrive till December, and it just. I don't know. I think
you should read it at Christmas, because it's because of the heart to it, and also it's sort of set at the time. It's
Isn't it surrounding the Day of the Dead?
Yeah, but I feel like it's quite. Almost, I think it's kind of. It would give you festive vibes in the sense of, because of the family element to it. There's quite a big family element to this book, with the characters, and it's just really, really, it's almost like gives me like a Disney movie vibe. Like I can imagine this being a Disney movie. That's what, like, I know, but it does, like, just because of the heart of it. 100%.
My answer for this is Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell, and the entire series, simply because it is a fantasy series that is also like set in the American, a version of like an American West. So a lot of what goes on within the books you would expect to have seen in a Western. The ways that they perform their magic, the places that the characters frequent, they are all so typical of a Western series. And it's also a series that deals very much with those themes of trying to please your parents and being worried that you're not doing, and also some rather without spoiling it, with not what's it called? I'll just say disinheritance, but recognizing that sometimes a person has to forge their own path in life, and that becomes a very big part of the entirety of the series. And so far, everything that I've read by Sebastian de Castell, I have read incredibly quickly.
That's good.
The first series, the Greatcoat series, is just so incredibly fast-paced, but it does fall into the trap of sometimes including twists and what have you, to have a very shocking climactic end to a chapter. Whereas with this series, I feel like the author had refined that skill a bit, and he knew when to have those like catastrophic twists, but he also very much pared back that, so that he focused more on the story and the characters that he had. And each book builds upon the last in terms of mythology within the series before you get to the final book. And it reaches this point in that where it is a culmination, and it does feel like every single one of the previous books had been a lesson into how to end this final one. But yes, for Western meets fantasy meets family saga. It was fantastic.
Oh.
The next one we have is The Santa Claus, a book with a character who takes on an obligation they don't want. I'm going to say Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This isn't necessarily...
I thought of that. I nearly added this. I was like...
This isn't necessarily a book that I wholeheartedly adored. Indeed, I have now donated it to the charity shop. But I liked it. It's not one I'll ever reread, and if I do, I can probably find it at the charity shop again or a library.
You like the telly show, don't you?
I do very much. More so than the book. The television adaptation is great, and I recommend it. But basically, you have the two angels. Well, you have the angel and the demon, and
Aziraphale and Crowley.
Yeah, Crowley gets tasked with delivering the Antichrist and bringing about Armageddon.
Which he doesn't want to do.
He really doesn't want to do that. And so then you end up with this book of these characters who have very huge obligations of definite biblical-sized proportions, having to fulfill their obligations whilst also not wanting to. So whilst they're fulfilling those obligations, they're also wanting to figure out ways to go back on them. And the book, it definitely has comedic moments, but for me, the TV show just manages to heighten those comedic moments and shows stuff that the book doesn't show. And I just like that so much more.
And I love how it's sort of like queer coded, I would say. It's kind of like, isn't it? And
I definitely say so.
I just think that you can see the love between Crowley and Aziraphale, and like in the show especially, I feel like.
Yeah, it's much more present in the show. But anyway,
I can't pronounce it. I know what you mean.
She has the quote where she thinks that she's been picked up by two gay men after thinking they were serial killers.
Yeah, in the back of the car.
But there is this big thing which has been talked about before, that Pratchett did have a few queer-coded characters within his fiction.
Yeah.
And there's this conversation as to whether one of the characters in his City Watch books is actually trans. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Good Omens was the characters taking obligations that they don't want. And what was yours?
I struggled with finding a book for this. Obviously, I did think of Good Omens, but because we talked about it recently, I wasn't so sure whether to say about that one. So I've got obviously this is not the same thing as obligate. I don't think of things as the same thing. I'm going to make that clear.
Okay.
This character is the marriage portrait, and the lead character, Lucretia. Is that name? Lucretia.
Yeah.
She's sort of put into a forced marriage, which obviously that is very different. And I would say forced marriage rather than arranged marriage, because it's she's she's only a young girl when she was forced to marry this guy, which isn't, I know in terms of obligation, it's again, I'm not downplaying the thing, but yeah, I read this quote recently. It's one quite a lot of people are talking about at the moment, and I thought it's a good book. It was a good book. It's not my favorite book of the year, and I don't think it didn't blow me away in the same way that I think other people have. Yeah,
this is the one where I treated you a bit like the way I mentioned treating my sister earlier, and you gauged to see whether I like it or not. You said that it's not for me. Yeah,
I don't think it would be. I think it does what it says in the tin. I don't think there's any huge surprises with this book, and I don't think I don't think it's meant to be like that. I don't think it's meant to be. Yeah, I think that plot-wise, it does go in different directions.
Right.
The direction it goes in at the end, I feel like a little bit cheapened it for me personally, which I'll talk about. I could probably spoil it to you, but I'm not going to spoil it on here. Yeah, it's a good book. I like Maggie O'Farrell's writing. Hamnet was amazing. This was just okay.
Yeah, I can understand that, because Hamnet was the only book of Maggie O'Farrell's where I adored it and thought it was really well done.
I can see this being on the Women's Prize though.
Oh yeah, I definitely think she's going to end up longlisted at least.
The Nativity, a book where joy is found in an unlikely place. And for this, I have chosen a book I've talked about previously, so I won't talk about. Oh, did you say your book? Well, yes, you did. You had said your answer. So I have picked a book I've already spoken about, so I'm not going to go on about it too much. Where the Lemon Trees Grow by Zalfa Couture. This is the joy that is set. This is set in the backdrop of the Syrian Revolution. The lead character, Salama, she's finds love in she finds love in these circumstances, and so that is why I have chosen it. It's gorgeous. It's going to be one of my favorite books of the year. I just loved it so much. It's a YA, and the author is, like I said, the first Syrian author to be published in both America, in the UK and the US, in the YA genre. So yeah, that is my pick. Your pick,
for this, I actually went for a book that is all about finding joy in an unlikely place, and that is Perfectly Happy by Jenny Lawson. So, as we know, start of 2016, I went through what I call the period of unfathomable sadness. And then I just, like, this. It was when I first started on YouTube, so like I gave up writing and I disappeared from the internet and everything for about 3 months. But it was this book that helped me make this decision. I had a lot going on, like, you know, to do with work and to do with family life, and I was just struggling. And Furiously Happy is this book that Jenny Lawson has her own mental health struggles, and she talks about them, but she talks about deciding to like be furiously happy about it. She is going to be happy. She is going to find that joy in the everyday. And it was reading this book that led me to feel like there was almost a camaraderie between me and the author.
Oh,
so I read it for the first time, and it helped me make this decision to take this break that I very much needed. And I read it again because it felt like I got a kinship with the book. And then it was the first book that I read for 2 years in a row, and I kept going back to it as this, not because I didn't want to like remind myself of the sadness that I'd gone through, but because it is this book where it is taking this somewhat dark, grim subject that we don't talk about enough, and I wouldn't say making it palatable, but making anyone who's experienced it feel like, yeah, this is something that we all go through. Being able to think of ways to get through it. And so, yeah, I haven't read it in a while, but I do know that if I felt a certain type of way, I could go back to this book. And
you pick yourself out a bit. So.
Yeah, like pick myself up, calm myself down, that sort of thing. And yeah, it is all about joy in the unlikeliest of places.
Oh, that's really lovely. That's like a powerful thing. When you can find a book that can do that. That's the power of the books, isn't it? The power of books. Yeah. You can find, because people often think it's just movies you can do that, but no, books, there's so much.
So it's A Muppet's Christmas Carol with a fantastic adaptation, because we agree A Muppet's Christmas Carol is like top tier. And yes, I would Stardust, but you know, the film. The book's by Neil Gaiman, and this is the one I was referencing earlier, where I watched the adaptation of this book before I read it. And I like them both so much that I now see them as two separate entities. Because a lot of people who watch this film struggle with the book, and they see the book as a bit boring and a bit dry. And people who read the book and then go into the film seem to dislike the film because the film is very Hollywood and there's a lot more magic and adventure in it than there is within the book. Whereas for me, they are these two separate things where the creator of the film has recognized what the film needs to make people enjoy it and crafted even more of a mythology around the book. Whereas the book is this very, what to me, it's this fairy tale that similar to when I was talking about The Hobbit before, the prose has this nostalgic quality that does seem to lean into the storytelling aspect of writing, and that's something that I always like. And I think that then if you looked at the film as a fairy tale adaptation, you might be able to perhaps push away your misgivings about adaptations. But yes, very much think that this is a great adaptation. Back when we had Sky, so I think I watched it when it first went on to Sky, and then I'd asked for it for Christmas because I have the movie cover, you know, and it's one of the only tie-in editions I have on my shelves, simply because that's the only one my parents could find at Christmas that year. But yeah,
my answer for this is little. How am I doing this? I love this. I love the book so much. I love the 2019 is it movie? So yeah, the one with Emma Watson in it, and there's several other people. I think it's Florence Pugh plays Amy, I think. And it's just I love this. I love the movie. That particular movie especially is really, really gorgeous. And I love the book and I love the movie equally. And I think that particular movie especially is a very faithful adaptation of the book, and it is particularly heartwarming, particularly heartbreaking, and it's got the most gorgeous family in it, which, you know, how much I love like books with sisters and things like that. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite books, and it's like one I will reread again and again and again, and one I will rewatch again and again. In fact, I have actually this December, because it's set at Christmas, so I feel like it could be done as a Christmas movie. It's another one you can say as a Christmas movie.
I have neither read nor seen this.
Ooh, you have to watch the movie, Elise, if you want to. We have to.
I'll ask my sister to do it.
You're gonna have a long list for her, poor Jess.
I've got to watch in a television series. It's fine.
Okay. Peter Rabbit, an unseasonal read / a comfort read. The reason I put Peter Rabbit in here is every single Christmas I watch Peter Rabbit. The cat who saved books, and I think this is set at Christmas, so actually it's not an unseasonal read, but it's definitely a comfort read, because it's like one of the lead characters is a cat, and it's gorgeous, and it takes you on like an adventure with the cat. It's got magical realism for that reason, obviously, talking cat, and it's wonderful. You've read this one, haven't you?
I read it at the start of this year, and I would also say that this would work for one of our earlier prompts about a genre blending novel too. Because it's also, as well as being this somewhat surreal read in which the cat's turning up and helping the protagonist to save books, it's also a very good exploration of grief, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. The one I chose for this is The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. And this is because I originally read this in November, but it's a book that is set in the heatwave of 1976, although it does go back 10 years prior to that, to 1966 as well. And Mrs. Creasy has gone missing, and Tilly and Grace decide that they're going to figure out where she's gone to. And it's, to me, the storytelling is on a par with Alan Bennett. There is some classic British humour in there. Joanna Cannon manages to take society at the time and condense it down to just this avenue of folk. And despite it being this book that's set during a heatwave, it was just a very, again, this book that is so homely and nostalgic that it very much suited the festive season. The 9th prompt is Home Alone 2, a book that made you laugh out loud. And for this, I went with All About Evie by Matson Taylor. I could have also chosen the first book in this series, but there is a scene in the first chapter of this book that I burst out laughing and had to put the book down because I was just that flaming hysterical at it. And then I took the dog for a walk afterwards, and anybody who saw me on that walk must have thought there was something wrong with me. This scene would keep going round in my head, and I would just be stood there as I was on the walk, just chuckling and laughing to myself. All I could think about was this flaming scene at the start of this book. And if you didn't know, this is the second book in a series following Evie Epworth. And there is a third book to come, which will be set another 10 years later. And this book sees Evie trying to navigate life in London, in a big city where we're in a very small fish, big pond sort of situation, and making some big mistakes along the way. I feel like if these books were turned into films or television shows, they would be perfect for fans of British.
Right.
Got it.
My answer for this, which I thought would be my actual answer, I'm going to say in a second, that this I thought would be a good opportunity to do our. I'm going to say that I'm going to mention your book in this.
Yes.
I'm going to say my other book after. But one of my answers for this is the R. Doris series by our lovely Charles Heathcote.
Again, just so you keep plugging this dead horse.
Not dead. This is what we're doing all this for, to help promote your lovely new book. Charlie has, in case you don't know, Charlie is an author. I'm sure if you don't know, I don't know where you've been.
We haven't stopped talking about it.
Sorry? Yeah, we haven't stopped talking about
it.
Charlie has 4 books. Our Doris, Indisputably Doris, Doris Ahoy, and the most recent book in the series, Royally Doris. And they're all brilliant books. They're all very funny. And if you like Charlie's humour, you will love these books. Brilliantly written. We are currently running a giveaway. Charlie, do you want to talk about the giveaway?
So the giveaway is to win all 4 books in the R. Doris series. If you've watched our announcement video, then given us your wish to enter in that announcement video, then in each of our Christmas Cracker videos, we are planning to give you the opportunity to have an extra entry into this giveaway. So over on my channel, last week we had 1 way to enter, and this week, if you've stuck around long enough, what we're asking is that you have to be subscribed to my channel and Charlie's channel, and you have to have given us your intention to enter over on the very first video. Yeah. Or you can enter this to have this bonus entry, which Charlie is going to tell you how you can get now. You need to put a snowflake emoji in it. Fantastic. Because I think that's a little bit Christmassy, a little bit random. A very, very good one, that one. Yeah. And we should say that we will be announcing the winner on our live on the 22nd of December. Yes, which is from between 6 and 6:30, we've decided. But anyway, so yeah, that's one of the books. And then another book which I want to talk about, which I've talked about to death, is The 7 Moons of Marley Almeida. And in particular, there's one chapter that Charlie knows. I think it's page 37, I believe, but I can't remember. If I find it in my Kindle, I'll let you know. It talks about aubergines, and I remember messaging Charlie and just been like, what? And then, oh my God, yeah, laughing a lot. We were laughing a lot. Because I hadn't yet started the book, and I kept messages from Charlie where she was just in hysterics, laughing, pages and sending them to me while she was having a laugh about it. And then when I got to the book as well, it is despite being this somewhat grotesque book at times, it has some very good humour in there as well to offset it. So yeah, I one of my favourites of the year. Yeah, definitely. Number 10, The Snowman, a festive staple. Well, obviously I could say A Christmas Carol, because that is like obviously a festive staple. I feel like, who are you if you don't think that? So I've got an illustrated edition of it here, which is lovely. Illustrator with that one? Sorry? Who's the illustrator of that one? PJ Lynch. I also like put ink pen illustrations, I will just add. Okay. And it's kind of like old-fashionedly this one, but the appearance of it, the illustrations, it's a good one. And then also I've got another one which I've been pulling out since I've bought it yearly, which is a literary Christmas and anthology, and it's got again, it's got some illustrations, it's got poetry, it's got short stories, it's got a little bit of everything, and it is, to me, a Christmas staple. I think it's published by the British Library. It's one of the ones that's published by the British Library. What would your answer be, Charlie? Well, it's the book that I've got with me, and it's become a Christmas staple for the last 3 years. It wasn't necessarily one prior to that for me, but it's the Christmas Chronicles by Nigel Slater. And everybody on BookTube seemed to be reading this book at one point. And I know that a lot of people enjoy Nigel Slater's recipes and all that. But what I like about this is the way that he talks about winter. Now, Mr. Slater and I disagree on certain things when it comes to Christmas. But for this year and last year, I think the year before that was the first year I got it, I have read it each day. And it's been a nice short, almost like an advent calendar, really, that starts in November to read over the last 2 months. And because this seems to be a time of year when I get incredibly busy, I think I said last week, I like having these pages that I can read where it can be 2 or 3 pages to just read each day. And also, like I say, he discusses traditions from Christmas. There are some great recipes in here. And he also, like I say, each year there is a moment within this book when I start disagreeing about the way that Nigel Slater talks about Christmas. And I'm still not over when he starts talking about Christmas candles and he tells people to go out and spend he doesn't say to spend this money. He doesn't say to spend it, but he says that the best candle that everyone ought to get, and you look it up and you find out it costs 90 quid.
What? Who would get a candle that's 90 quid?
The Chronicles has become a Christmas staple for me, just like a Christmas carol.
Me and Charlie aren't going to be tagging anyone for this specific tag, but if you want to take the tag, feel free to. We'd love to see it. Come and let us know, and we'll watch it on your channel. The next segment for our Charlie is a challenge. Is that what we call it?
Yes,
challenge.
It's our Challenge Charlie, where we
Challenge Charlie.
Us on Sunday sent a photograph of 10 books, and the other has chosen which we're going to read for the week.
So, Charlie, how did you get on with last week's book?
So last week, Charlie chose a graphic novel for me because she's been to me, especially because of how busy I am at the moment, as I'm going to keep talking about throughout December. It goes Wind, Volume 2 by James Tynion IV and Michael Charlie-ness for me to read. And I read the first volume earlier this year, and upon finishing it, immediately bought the second. It is a book in which features a lot of queer representation, which we very much like to see.
Because you bought it from the
from Queer Lit.
Yeah.
It's got a hugely diverse cast, but magic has basically been outlawed. And if people get touched by this strange, almost like fungi creature, it begins to cause their bodies to transform. And Wind has kept his ears hidden throughout his life because he's got elf ears, and he's always stayed in the back of where he lives, where his found family protect him, which is also a big theme, found family within this novel. But in the second, the king has sent the emperor going after Wind and his friends, and these vampires they basically don't have they have a take no prisoners mentality when it comes to this, and so there is it was very thrilling to read, and again extremely fast-paced, and I love the artwork of it, and I very much appreciated getting to hear more about how you came to have the separation between fairies and vampires and what the vampires and fairies are warring for, and you also got more history of the world, and you got to guess more about Wind's character. There were a few bits in it that niggled for me. I don't feel like his sister was featured as much as she was in the first book, and considering she'd been such a huge presence, it felt strange that we only got to see her for a little bit, and it almost felt like there was a push towards a romance that I just don't feel would have come where it did, but I also understand why the writers put it where it did within this book in particular. And overall, it has made me excited to read the next one, and I'm disappointed that it isn't out until next October because
oh no.
I thought that it was a great second volume, and I want to know what's going on with the characters.
I think I gave it 4 stars. So it's a good note. It's a really good book. I did enjoy it. It's not a perfect book for me. This is about this is Ginger and Me is about the lead is really about Wendy, who is like Wendy's 19 years old and Ginger is 15, and it's sort of told basically at the beginning of the book. It's sort of, you can tell that it's set in the future. So Wendy is telling the story from the future about about what has happened, and it's sort of alluding to this darkness within the pages. Parents have died. She's a writer. Wendy's a writer. She goes to a writers group, actually, so that sort of made me think of you. She goes to a weekly writers group, which and she's very inspired. There's an author that she reads whose name is Diane Weston, and she goes on Twitter and she's like follows Diane Weston on Twitter. So it talks about social media quite a lot, which and sort of, I would say, the darker side of social media. I don't know, can you say that?
You can. There is
anyway, sort of how it leads to it's sort of how the social media is fueling Wendy's obsession, I would say. And in this book, within these pages, Wendy at the beginning of the book, you are told from Wendy that her parents, when she was younger, like I said, Wendy is now 19 and both of the parents aren't actually here. But when she was younger, they wanted to try and diagnose. They thought that maybe Wendy was could have been possibly be autistic. So I don't know whether, like, that kind of irks me. I don't know whether I do not know whether Alyssa Suave has any experience with autism, and I don't like it when characters are coded in this way. It irks me to use autism in this way. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like it's sort of like they say it and it's mentioned, so it's not like it's not mentioned. It's not like with other books that you read, you think, oh, that character could possibly be neurodivergent. It's specifically said when she was younger, they thought that, and they deliberately did not want to get her diagnosed because they didn't want to know. It was something like that. It was a throwaway line about that really annoyed me. But overall, like, so she meets them anyway. That's a whole other thing. She meets Ginger, and they sort of form this like friendship. But really, it's not even about the friendship. It's to do with, like I said, Wendy's obsessional behaviour and how she is. It's dark, and it is dark and sort of in those ways. It's not super dark. It isn't. I don't know how to explain it without like spoiling it. But yeah, it's a good book. It's not a terrible book, and I feel like I want Emily to read this because I feel like she would enjoy it. But little things about it annoyed me, and I don't know whether I'd recommend it or not.
This week, the books that I sent Charlie to choose from were The Danger Gang by Tom Fletcher,
Like that.
Babel by R.F. Kuang, Orphea by Joanne M. Harris, A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, Miss Garnet's Angel by Sally Vickers, The Case of the Gilded Fly by Edmund Crispin, Frostheart's Rise of the World Eater by Jamie Littler.
What is it?
Sorry.
Go on.
The Christmas Egg by Mary Callie.
Okay.
Mary's Got Knits by Gervais Finn.
Mary's Got Knits today.
Yeah. The Virgin Mary's Got Knits by Gervais Finn. In the Fold by Rachel Cusk.
Okay. How I'm going to pick this one, I've written it down to 5 books. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to random generator between the 5 books I'm going to put Ophelia, Babel, The Danger Gang, the Virgin Mary's Got Knits, even though I put Mary's Got Knits, and Frostheart's.
Okay, let's see what we get then.
So I'm going to press go to the screen.
Okay.
And this is going to be, so you're just going to have whatever. It actually is the one I wanted you to get anyway.
Okay, what's this?
Mary's Got Knits.
Really? It never is. The Virgin Mary's Got Knits.
So
The universe has been kind to me again then,
Because
because this is a very short anthology.
Sorry?
This is a very short anthology. So why did you want this one to turn up?
Because I thought it sounded funny.
Oh, okay.
It sounded humorous to me. I don't know anything about it.
I have read the introduction. So basically, Gervais Finn was a school inspector.
Okay.
Is a tale of, well, the first section in particular is stories from schools that he visited as a school inspector. So the first story in particular, he turns up in the playground, and the title comes from the fact that he got to the playground and he'd been invited by the headmaster. He saw this young boy and asked him for directions to where the nativity was taking place. And the kid goes, "The play's off." And he goes, "What do you mean it's off?" And the kid, "Virgin Mary's got nits."
That's just brilliant. The title of it, I was just like looking at all the books and I was like, and I know I did want you to read Babel as well, but I thought that might be a little bit of a challenge because you said this week is this week the worst week because you've got tonight.
This is the worst weekend.
And then tomorrow.
Christmas Fest today, Poems and Pints tomorrow, working Friday, Saturday, and then I've got the other thing next Monday. So this is the worst week, yeah. So it'll be very nice to have a short book.
Yeah, Make You Mine This Christmas by Lizzie Huxley Jones. Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Elle. Better at Christmas. Against the Loveless World. Mystery in White. Olga Dies Dreaming. Genderqueer. The first Marple, which is The Murder at the Vicarage.
Yeah.
Girl's Story by Annie Ernaux, and The Mountains Sing. I haven't said all the authors anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, so there were only 3 that I was interested in reading.
Oh, it's 3.
Which were Cold Enough for Snow, Murder at the Vicarage, and Mystery in White. So when you sent me this, I didn't know what I was going to choose, and you will be reading Mystery in White. Mystery in White? Yeah.
Mystery in White. What's Mystery? Oh, the train one. Oh, okay. I've had that on my shelves for ages. We'll read it.
So there we go.
This one.
We're going to be giving you recommendations every week. And the film recommendation that I have for you this week, which I had just forgotten, but is Scrooge from 1970, starring Albert Finney. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it was on the tally on Sunday and I have recorded it. I like various Scrooge adaptations and I watch a few in December anyway. But this one I particularly like because it takes A Christmas Carol and it makes it decidedly camp. And one thing that I always go to, which is probably one of my favourite scenes, and it makes me laugh every time, even though it's so dark, is Scrooge doesn't yet know that the ghost of Christmas future is showing him that he's died, and he sings along to thank you very much with everybody whilst they are dancing on top of his coffin.
It's the best.
I love that.
It's the best. This is one of the best. Obviously, we love Muppets Christmas Carol. That is, but it's another one. This is another really strong one. My husband loves it. It's my husband's favourites. I
know that they've recently. Netflix have done a Scrooge adaptation this year. I don't know whether I'll be watching that, but that's a musical too. And all I'll say is to watch this one instead.
Mine is one that Charlie told me about. And I'm just going to say it just because I'm stealing Charlie's joy. Not really.
Not my joy.
You haven't watched it yet though.
I haven't watched it yet.
I think it only came out at the weekend though, didn't it?
Yeah, it came out on Friday.
There you go then. And it is Your Christmas or Mine, and it's starring Asa Butterfield and Cora Kirk, and it's set. Oh, Charlie, do you want to say about it?
So, I don't know what their character names are yet because I haven't seen it.
Oh, yes.
But they are
write that down. Actually, I've just written down the actors.
They're a young couple who, she's from Macclesfield and he's from a small Gloucestershire village.
Yeah.
And they're saying goodbye to each other at the train station in London, And when they both get on their trains, they decide that they want to be with the other. So they switch trains, but they don't know that they've both switched trains. So he is now heading off to her family in Macclesfield, and she is going to his house in Kemble. And he didn't know, I'm from Macclesfield. So I was very appreciative that we are getting mentioned in a Christmas film. I mean, I don't believe they filmed here. I believe they filmed in Pinewood Studios down south, which can be evidenced by the train station because we don't have a nice parochial little village train station like what they show on the television. Ours looks nothing like what I've seen, but what did you think of it?
I loved it. I thought it was really good. I said this to you. I messaged you. It's lovely. It's just really heartfelt. It's quite. It's not the funniest film. It's not like the best film in the whole world, but there's a little dog in it, and I love the dog so much. The dog is so cute, and it's really funny. And yeah, it's just a really good. It's good. It's a sure bet, I would say.
I'm gonna go to Ho 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 by Willem. A completely filthy, debauched Christmas song, which I only recommend to adults. The music video is it's brimming with nudity and sexual innuendo.
Did you say it's by?
Willem.
Oh, Willem. Oh.
Season 4, RuPaul's Drag Race, now known enemy of RuPaul.
I'm going to look this up.
Ho Ho Ho. I believe it's a parody of some rap song that's out there, but I wouldn't know about that. Either way, filthy, and Christmassy.
And which is why you love it. It's filthy, and then you love it too. Admit it, Charlie. You're just like me.
Oh, I love a bit of filth.
Me too.
I love a bit of filth.
My song is a classic, I would say. I'm going to say it's a classic. You're going to be like, no, it's not a classic, Charlie. It's by The Darkness. It's Don't Let the Bells End.
Oh my goodness.
It's Christmas time.
I know exactly what the song is. I know exactly what the song is. Yeah.
I love this song. Do you hate it? I love it so much.
It's not my go-to. It's not a go-to for Charlie. But I'm glad that you like it. Charlie decided she was going to break the rules. I decided I wasn't. I was just going to go with something. A book that I would recommend this week would be Frostheart by Jamie Littler. We mentioned the third book minutes ago, and it's a frozen landscape, an adventure story, which once again going to that other topic of found family. When I first read it, it reminded me of the TV show Monster Rancher that I watched when I was younger, and it really just dove into the themes that I enjoyed, and it reminded me of my youth, and it just every part of like an adventure story that I enjoy was in there.
My one is
yes,
the Christmas Advent Calendar, the tea Advent Calendar.
Blend Advent Calendar, yes.
And I heard about this because Charlie told me. That's another thing.
What
Charlie made me buy it.
Yeah. Don't forget that basically what happened was I missed out on getting their Halloween collection of teas. So I was adamant I was getting their Advent Calendar this year. And I sent Charlie a message telling her that she had to remind me on the Sunday that the Advent Calendars were going on sale.
And I love tea so much, me and Charlie. This is nothing me and Charlie have got in common.
So we're on the 6th day now. And so far, our top 2 teas are the same teas.
Favourite one is the Snowball Hot Cocoa. And our least favourite one, Charlie, you say what our least favourite one is.
It's rhubarb and custard, isn't it?
Yes. And it's the Rubios one, which I don't like Rubios. Which
I didn't particularly
dislike
it. I just didn't think that it had much flavour in. Conversely to that, because you get 2 tea bags every day, my mum's having the other tea bag you get. It has been one of the annoying things as well for me is sharing the Advent Calendar with my mother, though, because I'm letting her open it on the other days.
Me to do that.
The days that she's in work, I'm still having to get up on my days off to go downstairs to get the tea.
Oh. But it's nice, though, isn't it?
It's nice. It's a nice...
Last section of our Charlie stint.
Yeah.
is the quiz. Right, so my question is, oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm still gonna say it.
Okay.
Right. Which American comedy actor played Buddy, a human raised by Christmas elves in the 2003 movie Elf? This is our favourite movie. Not.
You couldn't write this. You couldn't write this. What a great full circle ending to this flaming episode.
There's the first movie we talked about.
Will Bloody Ferrell.
Yes, I didn't even need to give you the options. Correct.
How many ghosts appear in A Christmas Carol?
How many ghosts? So I'm going to say there's 4. No, I'm going. Right, okay. So you've got him. You've got the 3 ghosts.
I just said correct.
Yes, yeah, so 4. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 4.
Yay!
Yeah. You've got Jacob Marley, Ghost of Christmas Past, Christmas Present, and Christmas Future. Unless you go with the Muppets Christmas Carol, in which you get 5 because Jacob Marley has a brother.
Yeah, that's until we say goodbye, and then you can go to work and get ready and have a lovely time.
You mean
and have fun. I wish Charlie luck with having a lovely. You're gonna have a lovely time. You're gonna have a very busy week, but you're gonna have. So what? Tell you. You don't want to say what you've got on. You don't need to say it.
Oh, I can tell everybody what's happening. I think I did. So basically, I'm off to work tonight for a Christmas event that happens every year, and hopefully it's not like last year when we got rained off and the only place that was open was the shops. Then tomorrow I have poems, prose and pints at the Button Warehouse in Macclesfield, which I still haven't written anything for. So that's fun.
Are you working tomorrow as well?
No, I won't be working, but I do have other things that I need to get done. In work Saturday. I'm in work on Friday and Saturday. My cousin's decided to renew his wedding vows on Monday.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you've made it to the end, should we tell them to put something in the end to see if they've made it to the end, or do we not?
If you've made it this far,
not for any reason of any other thing other than we want to know.
Then this week, comment the word baubles.
That's a good one, Charlie. Okay.
There you go. We want to see all of your baubles in the comments.
Just enter that. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Charlie, for a lovely morning, as always. I'm sorry that we've taken so long. Hope you have a lovely day, a lovely evening, and goodbye.
Bye.